etmeyecektir. Başka ülkelerde müsaade etmeyecektir. Bugün herhangi bir domates tohumunu almaya kalksanız inanın 1 kilo altından daha pahalı. Çok daha pahalı ve bir kere üretiyorsunuz. Bir kere kullanabiliyorsunuz. Bunu bir kez daha tohum geliştirmek, kendinizin bunu geliştirmeniz imkansız. Öyle geliştirmiş ki sadece tek bir seferlik kullanabiliyorsunuz. Bunu iyi, kaliteli bir ürün elde etmenin için de yine aynı ülkenin veya gelişmiş ülkelerin de ilacını kullanmak zorundasınız. Aksi takdirde tohum bir işe yaramıyor. Yani bu sektör aslında biz fiiliyatta ülkeleri fiziksel olarak işgal etmese de yani bir tür sömürgecilik var aslında. Yani bu gıdada da var, her alanda da var. Yani kendini bir set çıkararak onun istediği şekilde hareket etmek zorundasın. Aksi takdirde sen de domates yemeyeceksin. Ama yapmamız gereken, eminim ki Türkiye bunu yapıyor ama bizlerin de yapmamız gereken kendi tohumumuzu geliştirmemiz gerekiyor. Kendi gübremizi de geliştirmemiz gerekiyor. Ne zamana kadar? Hızlı hareket etmemiz gerekiyor. Çünkü toprak zaten zehirleniyor. Toprak bu gübreye alıştıktan sonra sen istediğin kadar tohum yetiştir, istediğin kadar gübre yetiştir, verim alamayacaksın. Verim almadığın yerde zaten geleceği de yok. Teşekkür ederim.
Hi, my name is Gamze Kandemir. I'm coming from the same university as Fatma. I study economics. I'm doing double major in political science and international relations and a minor in business administration. I actually had 4 questions, but my friend helped me with the broad questions she had on Mr. Damka with his broader answer. But still, I want to address the same questions in case Mr. Al-Farisi and Musa Bayana would like to add anything or contribute. My first 2 questions were about the unjustice measures of World Trade Organization and the non-inclusiveness of agricultural products and the non-tariff barriers, as you mentioned, Mr. Damka, that the developed countries are putting in just for circumventing the agricultural the countries that are mainly generating their GDP from agricultural products to have such non-tariff barrier clashes or challenges. And the second question was about the monopolization in the field of seed and fertilizers, chemicals of agriculture. So even after the Green Revolution, we saw that after mass production and unconscious production, our soils have been, as you said, poisoned. Because even from the case of my mom's village, there was an American investor in the year of 90s who came just with the fertilizers and unconsciously, because the farmers were also unconscious, so he just stayed there for 2 years and he invested. He just cultivated potatoes in bulk and then left the village. So thank you for the broad answer you gave, and you touched upon this problem. My other 2 questions were...
you know what, your questions are going to have to be the last. We're already over time. So if we can let the minister answer your first 2 questions, and we'll see where we go. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Damka.
Okay, sir.
To all of you.
Thank you very much, Kamsa from Antalya University. I think you just touched on the right time that I think we need WTO to be more fair, especially when we see some small island developing countries. Sometimes they are not. This is not about production, but sometimes it is about the capacity or on the how to manage the economic capacity related to the economic scale. When they have a very small arable lands and then they have a very small capacity of intensify their product, then that is the problem. So, but at the same time, there are some tariff on many things which I think we need to be fair. And then you mentioned about the research I think Minister Damkar also talk about the research. I think the research and development in developing countries should be given priority right now to support the food security. Yesterday I was in bilateral talk with Deputy Minister Farouk of Turkey, and then he mentioned about the availability of technology by the UN Technology Bank, which is free of charge in terms of for the developing countries. I think this is part of that cooperation that we can promote in the near future. Thank you very much.
Shall I ask my other two questions?
Sure. Go ahead. Or unless our other panelists would like to address the others.
Okay, my next two questions are especially addressed to Mr. Musa Bayana and Al-Farisi. Second point I want to touch upon is the biopiracy problem, especially by the big companies. For instance, I read a book of Vandana Shiva. She's really combating with this issue. So if we go from the case of Indonesia, for instance, there are more than 3,000 types of rice, right? But these companies are taking the patents of these natural endemic rices, but you as a country have to pay for the patent that is actually endemic and special to your region. So about the case of biopiracy, I would like to take your advices or ideas, and especially to you, Mr. Musa Bayana, my second question. We talked about the land redistribution applications in your country, and Ms. Andrea has stated that your country's people love their land, so you don't have this problem. But I believe the challenge of this decade is climate change, because there's increasing climate change migration, especially when the crop yield efficiency is decreasing. So in that case, what is your state agenda and your policy implications to cope with this problem? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with the last. In our case, like I said, there is so much appetite and hunger for land. Our problem is not people running away from the farms and going away. We actually have people moving from towns into the rural communities. So what we have done is the government has come up with a program of value addition, beneficiation, and we are adopting a concept where we are saying a factory on every district, where we are focusing on rural industrialization. That is going to deal with migration issues and deal with issues to do with overpopulation. Embracing ICT, creating markets, farmers markets, is also created a platform that ensures that farmers maximize on their production, they get the best prices or optimal prices or viable prices on their prices. Government has also put in place interventions where they think markets alone cannot stand or may fail. So that is sustained, will sustain us into the future. Also, the deployment of resources on agriculture, on irrigation, so that we mitigate the vagaries of climate change. That has helped a lot in that area. I also just want to comment on some of the questions that you've raised on WTO, on issues around barriers, non-tariff barriers. My comment is that in reality, you can never deal with or have a foolproof solution to non-tariff barriers. In Africa, once they have a saying which says, men have learned to shoot without missing, and the bird ekene has learned to fly without landing. This applies also to issues of non-tariff barriers. Countries, nations will always come up with new ways and methods of evading or creating barriers which are not technical. And no matter how many laws we put in place, we're going to have this problem of non-tariff barriers. But most of the reasons why people are being protectionist, you also highlighted the issue of patents and seed, monopolies on seed and whatever. I think we also have to be very fair with our innovators or people who have their intellectual property rights or copyrights. The world does not have a standard model of dealing with copyrights or intellectual property rights. Until and when we have a universal laws on dealing with intellectual and property rights, it is very difficult to deal with these matters. Why? Because you are an entrepreneur. You have come up with your new discovery. Before the advent of ICT, with that discovery, it had a proper product life cycle that can stretch over years, and you can recoup your investment. But with the advent of technology and its proliferation the world over, what happens is you invent something today, somebody re-engineers it in the next 2-3 days. It expires before it's even hit the markets, or it's that technology is even stolen. This is why innovators or some people are now protecting their seeds and so forth, so that they try and recoup their investment. But we believe we need a model where biotechnology or biotechnological improvement should be fashioned or tailored in a manner that the world will benefit, but at the same time ensuring that those innovators will also recoup what they would have what they would have put as throughput. I submit.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we are out of time. In fact, we're about 10 minutes over, but if our panelists don't have anywhere else to be, perhaps you can all engage with each other and speak. It's wonderful to have students that really are so interested in the subject matter. So if you do have time, it'd be great. I'd like to thank all three of you really so much for such a fascinating discussion and for being with us on this final day of the forum. I will leave the audience at your mercy, or you at their mercy, actually. And thank you again.